Hello, everyone. Please join me today in welcoming Dr. Chezi, a seasoned expert in healthcare analytics and data driven decision making. Currently, the Director of Healthcare Analytics at Zimit Healthcare Consultants, Dr. Chezi is renowned for developing predictive tools that enhance engagement and drive innovation. With a strong background in research and track record in public health, she continues to lead the way in AI and machine learning applications in the healthcare. We are thrilled to have her insights today with us. Thank you so much, Dr. JC, for joining us. So let me start. What are your typical days look like?
Well, it just depends, really, but all of them are long and exciting because there's something new learned every single day. A typical day for me starts. I like to start early. When I don't oversleep, my day tends to run better. So, I go for a run for about an hour in the morning. About 5:30, it gives me an opportunity to set my mind right and be ready to tackle the goals of the day. So, from a work standpoint, I dive right in with a team meeting where we collaborate with the developers to determine, what's on the slate for today. What does this look like? What projects are on the books? And then we go off into our respective domains and work on the different tasks at hand. A lot of my day is spent in research and troubleshooting. And in terms of research, it's really more about, okay, how can we improve this? Or I'm doing a research deep dive on perhaps a correlational study to that will inform the next steps of developing a predictive model. And so it's really a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of thinking, and a lot of trial and error. Sometimes more error than I would prefer, but that's part of the process for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So tell us more about your journey, how you came here as a director of analytics.
Sure. It's actually quite accidental if you want the truth of it. I wanted to be an epidemiologist from a very early point in my career. But I went into computer programming to pay the bills and get through my bachelor's. And I enjoyed that and started as far back whenever we were doing the Y2K conversion programming. So I've been in this a while. And so did the AS400 COBOL screen scraping efforts for a corporate headquarters of an insurance company here in Texas, and then ended up in early childhood intervention, which is a program that's federal IDEA Part C and focuses on infants and toddlers with medical conditions. It was the perfect marriage of my love for data and analytics and the epidemiologist side of things. Because after completing my bachelor's and my master's, I went and got all the way through the doctorate of public health and epidemiology and quantitative modeling through the third chapter of dissertation. And then at the time, my first husband was diagnosed with a terminal illness. And so I did leave the dissertation program to see him through that last period of his life. And then whenever it was time whenever that had concluded and it was a reasonable amount of time to where it felt right to return back to that, my dissertation chair had gone to another university. And they sent me an invitation and said, hey, if you're willing to come over here, we'll finish you out over here. And so they recruited me to come over there. We finished that particular dissertation and completed that doctoral degree, but it remains that I have that one. And then I have the ABD. And then out of just a stroke of insanity, I thought, okay, you know what? Let me start a PhD in health sciences. So I am almost to the dissertation phase of another doctorate in health sciences that focuses on data science, but more specifically, more to the point of the ethics behind data science and the intersection of ethical considerations and where AI and machine learning are going with with their modeling, because we're seeing this happen in EHR systems across the country where, they're wanting to develop faster ways of documentation for clients or client interactions. But the fact of the matter still remains, there are some serious ethical concerns. And so I try to be mindful of that. And that is the heart of my research. And so that's in addition to what I'm doing with Zimit Healthcare Services, where we are looking at, we're evaluating skilled nursing facilities. We're looking at their Medicaid, Medicare data to determine, is this facility good? Is this mandate helpful? What is just every possible component related to the care of the elderly in nursing home facilities. And so it's been a pet project on both sides, and a labor of love, because at every point I'm able to utilize that skill set, the accidental skill set actually, of the data and the epidemiology and what I'm doing now. And ultimately my goal is to reach a point where we have sound models, or at least that I've been a contributory member to a sound model that eradicates the bias and the potential for client revelation of personal information that might adversely impact them later down the road. Because right now, that's a significant reality in the models that we have. There is no perfect model, and not to say that there could ever be one. However, the more we work toward that, at least the more informed we become about the limitations of AI and machine learning and how to tweak that and make it better and better each day.
That's true. That's true. So I can see how the things, if we want to be there, how the things fall into line, right? So this is exactly what has happened, right? Okay, very nice. So tell me, what aspects of your job excites you the most?
Probably the discovery component, because you will dive into something with, I freely admit, I will have a preconceived notion of what I expect to see. There's a hypothesis, and then there's my opinion, and those are not necessarily the same.
Mhm.
However, when you really get into the crux of the data and you look at it and it proves something completely different than what you expected, but I would also say the discovery of new issues to address, because there is, you resolve, or you answer one question, you don't resolve the problem. You answer one question, but that answer creates 10 additional questions that are very worthy of consideration and research, because they have such a ripple effect and an impact on everything in the industry, regardless of what, because information touches everything. So those 10 questions then have 10 answers. So it's an exponential possibility of discovery. And that's the exciting part.
Very nice. That's actually, I can see and I can feel it, because somewhere we also solved the use cases and the discovery we found, we never thought of those things. So that comes into our, in front of us. So that is really exciting. So in your experience, how do you think strategy and data plays a key role in any organization growth?
You have to have a good roadmap. When you set out on any trip, whether it be data or in a car, you have a general direction in which you want to head. It's always up for discussion as to ultimately where you land. But with data and strategy, the key is to evaluate at each step. Does this still answer the question that we are trying to answer? Does it still meet the need that we are trying to meet? Those things evolve. And one of the biggest mistakes I've seen occur in that sector, in the industry, is people develop a set and forget mindset on their roadmap and
Mm,
data strategy. They'll develop a 5-year strategy, and then come year 3, you've invested significant resources, all of that. By year 3, the needs have changed. The environment has evolved. The world around you has changed, but your map hasn't. And
mm,
that's okay as long as it still meets the need that's stated. But if you don't continually reevaluate that, at year 5, you have wandered off into this desert of some product that you have that is no longer relevant. And so
Mm.
that failure to stay in check with situational awareness and that failure to stay in check with the needs of the very people that the data is intended to help or serve, because even if it's not a client facing product, if it's a back end product, it does still meet a need and deliver a service. And
Mm.
so you have to just continually make sure that your strategy aligns with reality.
That's such a great, you have shared the great thing you have shared, that definitely it needs to aligned. The strategy needs to be aligned with our vision, with our, organization, what we are seeing through. So that is, I am completely aligned with that. So tell me some of the use cases which you have, solved by leveraging data to make the impactful solutions.
Okay. Um, I have to be careful because there's some proprietary things that I have to avoid there. But what
Okay.
I can discuss is, and this is actually published, I believe, through
Okay.
the American Public Health Association. But when I was an operational metrics lead at the state Department of Health for Rhode Island
Okay.
in their COVID-19 operations sector, case use for that related around automating cluster detection within Salesforce. And so the trick of that was the definition of what constitutes a cluster. And that was the big question that had to be answered. That was my task starting day one there at the State Department of Health with Rhode Island. Was number one, we need to determine what actually constitutes a cluster, because the environment dictates the definition of cluster according to the Centers for Disease Control. And so then how do we further refine our data and our algorithms to appropriately detect what that is based upon the environment? For instance, one case in a skilled nursing facility constituted the potential of a cluster, whereas it took more than one case in a correctional facility to constitute a cluster. And out in the community, it depended upon the resolution date of symptoms and the start date of the next case. And, there's just a broad number of factors that contribute to the definition of the cluster. So how do you write the algorithm for that that will weed that out? It seems dichotomous, and at its very core it is, but the layers of decision are stacked 10 and 12 deep.
Mhm.
So that was a huge use case for that. A more recent use case that's not COVID related is when we were looking at the stability of a skilled nursing facility and assessing the stability, because stability it doesn't mean that they are stable good or stable bad. It means that there is a consistency in their performance, whether it
Mhm.
be good or bad.
Mhm.
And so we had to dive into that first to then again create, as of the answer of that comes the next set of questions. Well, what is associated? What is the outcome of a facility that is stable versus a facility that is unstable? And if they're stable good, does the outcome look different? If they're stable bad, does the outcome look different? Is the fluctuation in dynamics, is that contributory to a sharper increase in performance or a sharper decrease in performance? So that one answer of identifying the different variables that contributed to stability in performance, regardless of good or bad, then created the questions related to, okay, so what type of stability and what is the effect of that? And that's actually going to have a much broader implication related to the staffing mandates that the federal government has attempted to put into place. I know that there's a number of litigation situations where state health associations are filing for an injunction on those mandates, and they may or may not be fully implemented within a certain time period, pending the outcome of those efforts. But the knowledge behind that will inform further policy decisions. So again, even though it's not client facing right now, there's some big stuff that's going to happen as a result of that utilization of data and strategy.
That's awesome. I mean, amazing use cases you have worked on. Thank you so much, Dr. Chesi, for the insightful discussion. To our listeners, your support and engagement mean the world to us. Whether you're here for the insights, the stories, or just the vibes, we are so grateful to have you on this journey. Don't forget to follow or leave a review if you have loved this content. Thank you, and we will see you soon in the next episode.